Hi there, my name is Vin Colatavidal, and I have the privilege to be joined by Dr. Mary Cushman, who is the editor-in-chief of the Research and Practice in Thrombosis and Hemostasis. Hi there, Mary.
Hi, Vin. It's great to see you.
You as well. Quite a different set of circumstances since we talked last time in Melbourne, huh?
It sure is.
So let's talk a little bit around RPTH, with it now entering its fourth year. Tell us a little bit around the progress the journal has made and what the future really holds.
Well, I think the progress of the journal largely lies in the commitment of the science community to share their research with us and allow us the privilege of providing peer review to their science and helping them to improve their science and then publishing it in RPTH. So I think that's really the key factor in the success so far. And we're so excited that we've been surpassing the benchmarks we set for ourselves in terms of the number of submissions and the number of publications. So I really feel like we've gotten to the point where we're really becoming established in the research community as a place where people know they will get good quality publishing and where readers will know they can find good quality science. So it's just so gratifying to be at this stage of the process.
You've published dozens of illustrated reviews in association with state-of-the-art presentations at ISTH 2020. Can you tell us more about the project?
Yeah, this is something we are probably the most proud of the innovative things that we've done. So we're trying to make science accessible to learners, whether those learners are members of the general public or students or early career faculty members just starting out. And we want people to understand the most complex constructs. And so we are using illustration to do that. And at this Congress, we're so excited to have the second year effort at doing these illustrated capsules. And so we invited all of the state-of-the-art speakers to submit a central illustration that describes the essence of their talk, that's accompanied by just a little bit of text and a few references. And we have that published to go along with the Congress so that people who this year are watching those talks virtually can look at those illustrations and get the big picture about the talk at the same time as they're watching the talk. And then, of course, we will live tweet like we did last year during each talk to share that content on social media and allow people to interact with the content on social media and provide their input on social media. So it's just another way to communicate what's happening at the Congress. And then it's a permanent documentation of what happened at the Congress, both in our electronic pages, because we don't have paper pages, but also on social media, where we'll use the hashtag illustrated review and hashtag ISTH 2020 to allow people to find this material, forever going forward.
So you mentioned a couple of interesting things there, innovation and accessibility to education. How much more crucially and vitally important during today's time with COVID-19? It's really impacted the publishing world from what I believe. Can you tell us how RPTH is dealing with the COVID-19 papers?
Yes, we really were concerned about the ability of scientists to do their research during the shutdown. And so when it first started happening, we had a meeting of our associate editors, our publisher, and our ISTH partners to discuss how we could allow science to continue to go forward during this time undeterred. And so we put in very quickly a set of policies to govern the peer review, because we were very concerned scientists who could not physically go to their labs to do experiments would have difficulty getting their science completed or in responding to peer review comments. So we advised the peer reviewers that we wanted them to be cautious about what types of recommendations they would make, or requests they would make to authors for revisions, such that, not requiring, for example, extensive additional laboratory experiments that would maybe not improve the article. Sometimes peer reviewers want everything, they want it their way, which is the whole point of peer review. But sometimes those experiments or additional analyses, because it could just be statistical analysis as well, which can sometimes take quite a lot of time. Sometimes those revisions don't really improve the final product. They just provided a layer of nuance, a nuanced improvement. And so we instituted these policies so that authors would know that we're on their side, and that peer reviewers would maybe have a kindness about them through this process, and at the same time ask the authors, when they were not able to do certain things because of the physical limitations, that they add that as a limitation to the article, that future experiments could do this or that. And that way we could keep the science moving and keep the publishing happening, because this is the lifeblood of science. And if investigators can't get their work out, then they might be harshly judged, for example, when they come up for promotion or what have you. And so we had to have that freight train of discovery had to keep going, and we didn't want it to stop. And it's worked very well. And we've had a pretty significant increase in submissions actually during this time. And I think from the perspective of being a scientist myself, when you're not running around all the time or commuting, to work back and forth every day, you have maybe more time to actually write. So we have noticed an increase in submissions. And I'll say the last thing that we have looked into is, we've been really committed to equity, especially gender equity in publishing. And every year we publish the percentage of women authors, for example, of papers, to try to make sure we are representing both women and men in science appropriately, and not publishing in any kind of biased way. And so we became concerned that women scientists might be more adversely affected by the pandemic than men, especially younger women, because duties like childcare or household chores tend to fall more often to women than men. Not always. It wasn't like that in my house, but that does happen. And so we did an analysis to look at the percentage of women authors amongst articles that were submitted during this shutdown time, and published that online back in June to kind of reveal what was going on in the thrombosis and hemostasis research community that follows our journal. And what we found actually was that there was no reduction in the percent of women authors, either as first authors or senior authors during this time, compared to the similar time last year. And so we were really pleased by that. It was very interesting because we separated out COVID papers that were about COVID-19. And in the COVID-19 related papers, there were lower numbers of women first authors and senior authors. And so, you can make different hypotheses about why that might be. It might be that women haven't had the opportunity to start new projects as quickly and get them written and submitted. But it might also be that women have a different speed at which they work. Maybe they're more cautious and they are less likely to submit as rapidly as men. We don't know the reason, but so we've contributed that now to the science community, and I challenge other journal editors to publish similar data so we can get a better handle on this across different fields of science.
So Mary, you mentioned earlier, as far as over at 2019 at the meeting in Melbourne, how RPTH was sharing science via Twitter. What have you learned about social media since becoming the editor-in-chief of RPTH?
I would say before I started in this role, I had gotten onto Twitter and was starting to see some of I'll call it the power of Twitter to disseminate science. And So I wanted it to be part of the journal, so that it could be a mechanism whereby we could become established and well known, and provide a venue for conversation about the research that we're publishing. And so, I didn't really know if it would work or if it would pick up. And what I've learned is that it absolutely works. It is such a powerful medium. And one thing I'll say, if you're listening to this and you're not active on Twitter, I would strongly encourage you to think about how being active on Twitter can enhance your own career and allow you to have a voice and speak to issues in science, and actually increase your recognition across the field. We did an analysis this past year of something called the altmetric score of the articles that we're publishing. And altmetric is a metric which captures the non-traditional venues where your science is published. So, for example, if you have a media release and newspaper articles about your science, that contributes to your altmetric score. Or if you're on CNN, or if you have people tweeting about your work, it enhances the altmetric score, and it's given for each article. So when you look at your article online, for example, you see this colorful circle with a number inside, and that's the altmetric score. So the higher the score, the more attention your work is getting outside of the science channels, if you will. So it doesn't count citations to your work, for example, by other scientific papers. And we did an analysis led by Dr. Gerald Chi, who was serving at the time as our social media associate editor. And Dr. Chi looked at the altmetric scores of all the articles we've published and correlated that to the number of citations on those articles. And what he learned is that there is a direct correlation. So articles that are more active on social media, which is the primary means of boosting an altmetric score, had higher citation counts. And it really does work. When people see information on Twitter, it matters and it sticks in their mind. And when they're then writing a paper, they might remember it and cite it. Now, you can't be sure that the relationship isn't just a true unrelated sort of thing, because it might be just that the best science gets the most interest and then it also gets the most citations. But time and again, I see things on Twitter that I would not otherwise have known about, and they impact my patient care of my own patients or my own science. And so, I think it's well worth it. And it's also a way of branding yourself. If you're smart and say important things on Twitter, people will remember you. And I think for the journal, it's really crucial. We're an open access journal. It makes it easy to read the journal right on your phone, right through Twitter. You just click the link on your Twitter app and you go right to the journal site and you can read the whole article and interact with it that way. And since we don't have paper, we don't send issues out, it's really great for us, for our journal to utilize, especially.
Well, that wraps up today's discussion on RPTH, Mary. Really appreciate your time. And look forward to next time when we can actually not socially distance and actually be across from each other.
Yeah, maybe we will be together in Philadelphia next year, right?
Sounds great.
Awesome.